Your dreams aren't random, and they're not harmless. Every night you ignore them, you lose a piece of guidance meant for you. What if the answers you're chasing while awake only speak when you're asleep? You were never meant to understand your life using logic alone. That's the lie most people live by, and it's why they feel lost, anxious, or disconnected without knowing why. While you're busy managing appearances during the day, your soul waits for nightfall to tell the truth. Dreams are not noise, they're messages. And the uncomfortable reality is this: if you don't listen voluntarily, the soul speaks symbolically and louder. This video is about why your soul speaks through dreams and how those images, fears, repetitions, and symbols are not coincidences, but guidance designed to correct your path, reveal your inner truth, and initiate real transformation. Carl Jung said it clearly: dreams are the guiding words of the soul. And once you see what dreams are really doing, you can't unsee it. Because the moment you understand them, they stop haunting you and start guiding you. You don't start dreaming by accident. You drift into it the moment your guard drops. When the noise of the day fades, your soul finally gets a word in. That's why dreams often feel louder than life itself. They don't whisper politely. They cut straight to meaning. You may ignore your inner truth while awake, but sleep removes your armor. And suddenly there it is, raw, symbolic, undeniable. As Jung taught, the unconscious doesn't argue with you. It shows you images, images you feel before you understand. Think of dreams as letters you never opened, stacked quietly inside you. Sooner or later, the soul knocks harder, and that's where guidance begins. Here's the uncomfortable part most people avoid. Silence is terrifying to the ego. You fill your days with noise because silence might reveal something real. But at night, distractions shut down and the shadow steps forward. Not to punish you, no, to be seen. Your dreams aren't random movies. They're mirrors tilted at just the right angle. They reflect what you've been running from all along. That recurring face, that endless hallway, that sudden fall, it's all symbols. And symbols are the soul's preferred language. Logical words would fail here, so images take over. This is the first crack where transformation sneaks in. Imagine your soul as a pressure system, like steam trapped in a sealed room. Every ignored emotion adds heat. Every denied desire raises the pressure. Dreams are the release valve, dramatic, symbolic, unavoidable. That's why they feel intense, even absurd sometimes. Intensity is the cost of being ignored too long. You may laugh them off in the morning, but the unconscious keeps score. It remembers what you promised yourself years ago. It remembers who you were before you shrank. And through dreams, it pushes that memory back into awareness. You've probably noticed this. The more you suppress something, the louder the dream. That's no coincidence. It's guidance in disguise. When your waking life drifts off balance, the soul compensates at night. If you act strong all day, your dreams may show vulnerability. If you pretend control, chaos appears in sleep. This isn't cruelty, it's correction. Like a compass recalibrating after being shaken. Jung believed dreams restore psychic balance when consciousness leans too far. They don't judge, they adjust. And adjustment is always the beginning of transformation. So here's something practical you can do tonight. No mysticism required. Keep a notebook beside your bed even if you think it's silly. Write one sentence when you wake up, just one. A symbol, a feeling, an image. Don't analyze yet. You're not decoding, you're listening. Over time, patterns emerge like footprints in sand. That's your inner truth leaving clues. And once you start listening, the soul doesn't need to shout, but be warned. What comes next isn't gentle, because when the soul speaks clearly, it often leads you straight into the shadow you've avoided. Your soul doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in images. That's why dreams feel strange, poetic, sometimes downright illogical. Logic belongs to the conscious mind. Symbols belong to the unconscious. When you expect dreams to behave like rational thoughts, you miss their power. A locked door isn't about doors. Water isn't just water. Being chased isn't really about danger. Each image is compressed meaning, like a zip file for truth. As Jung observed, the psyche chooses symbols because they bypass resistance. They slip past the ego before it can say, "That's not me." Think of symbols as emotional shortcuts. They go straight to the nervous system, not the intellect. That's why a dream can shake you more than a real conversation. Your inner truth recognizes the message instantly, even if your mind doesn't. It's like hearing music in a language you don't speak, but still feeling moved. The soul isn't interested in explaining itself. It wants to be felt, and feelings are harder to ignore than ideas. That's also why dreams linger all day. They leave an emotional residue you can't quite wash off. That residue is intentional. It's guidance, asking for attention. Here's where most people go wrong. They Google symbols like they're math formulas. Snake equals fear, house equals self. But symbols don't work like dictionaries. They're personal. A dog in your dream might mean loyalty, fear, or childhood safety. Context is everything. Ask yourself, what did I feel in the dream? Emotion is the decoder key. The unconscious always tags symbols with feeling. Ignore the feeling, and the message collapses. Let's ground this with something practical. Say you dream of driving a car with no brakes. Instead of panicking, slow down and reflect. Where in life do you feel out of control? Work, relationships, your own impulses. That dream isn't predicting disaster, it's diagnosing imbalance. It's the soul tapping your shoulder saying, "Notice this." Jung called this compensatory wisdom. When life speeds up unconsciously, dreams hit the brakes symbolically. That's how transformation starts, through awareness, not fear. Once you understand symbols as a living language, everything changes. You stop fearing your dreams and start collaborating with them. Each symbol becomes a conversation starter with your shadow. Not an enemy, just a neglected part asking to be integrated. And the more you listen, the clearer the language becomes. Dreams evolve as you evolve. They grow subtler, sharper, more precise, because the soul adjusts its volume to your willingness to hear. But there's a catch most people don't expect. When symbols start making sense, the unlived life begins to surface, and that's where things get real. There's a version of you that never got a chance to live, not because you lacked talent, but because life demanded conformity. That forgotten version doesn't disappear, it waits. And at night, through dreams, it steps back into the room. This is what Jung called the unlived life. It's made of postponed choices, muted desires, and roads you didn't take. During the day, responsibility keeps it quiet, but sleep loosens the grip of obligation. Suddenly, images appear that feel oddly familiar and deeply emotional. That's your inner truth resurfacing, asking to be seen. You might dream of old friends, past lovers, or abandoned places. These aren't nostalgic reruns, they're symbolic reminders. Each image points to something unfinished. Maybe it's creativity you set aside, maybe courage you postponed. The unconscious doesn't accuse, it reveals. It shows you who you might have been without fear, and that can sting. That's normal. Growth often begins with discomfort, because acknowledging the unlived life is the first act of transformation. Here's a powerful metaphor. Think of your life as a book. Every ignored calling becomes a blank chapter. You keep turning pages, pretending they're empty on purpose, but at night, the soul flips back to them. Dreams reread what you skipped. They underline passages you rushed past. That's why some dreams feel heavy with regret, not to trap you in the past, but to reopen possibility. As long as you're alive, those chapters aren't closed. The shadow guards them until you're ready. Let's make this practical for a moment. If you keep dreaming about a certain skill, music, travel, teaching, pay attention. That's not random fantasy, it's directional guidance. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. Start smaller. Take a weekend class. Read books like Man's Search for Meaning or The Alchemist. Reintroduce that part of yourself gently. The soul responds to movement, not perfection. Even a small step reduces the pressure in your dreams. The unlived life doesn't demand everything at once. It asks for honesty. Honesty about what you've denied. Honesty about what still matters. When you ignore it, it returns louder, stranger, more emotional. When you acknowledge it, the tone shifts. Dreams become less haunting and more instructive. The message sharpens. Because once the soul feels heard, it doesn't need to haunt you, but the journey doesn't stop there. Once the unlived life is recognized, dreams begin correcting imbalance, and that's where inattention turns into guidance. Your soul has a built-in balancing system, and dreams are part of it. When your waking life drifts too far in one direction, the unconscious pushes back. Not harshly, precisely. This is why dreams often contradict how you see yourself. You feel confident by day, yet dream of being lost at night. You act selfless, but dream of anger or rebellion. That contrast isn't a flaw, it's feedback. As Jung observed, dreams compensate for conscious imbalance. They restore equilibrium when the ego overcorrects. Think of them as psychic chiropractic, subtle but deeply transformative. The ego hates this process, by the way. It prefers consistency, even when consistency means self-deception. But the soul isn't loyal to your self-image, it's loyal to wholeness. So when you suppress vulnerability, dreams introduce helplessness. When you deny desire, dreams exaggerate it. This isn't sabotage, it's course correction. Like a compass twitching after you've ignored true north. The symbols may feel exaggerated, even theatrical. That's because subtle hints didn't work. Dreams escalate only when silence fails. Here's where people misunderstand fear-based dreams. They assume nightmares mean something bad will happen. More often, they mean something is already happening internally. A collapsing building, inner structures failing, missing an exam, fear of being unprepared for life, being naked in public, exposure of inner truth. The unconscious dramatizes imbalance, so you can't dismiss it. It turns emotional whispers into visual alarms. Not to scare you, but to wake you up. That's guidance, not punishment. You can work with this process instead of resisting it. When a disturbing dream appears, ask one question: what am I overdoing or avoiding? Overworking, avoiding conflict, playing a role that no longer fits. Dreams reveal tension long before burnout does. That's their gift. Try adjusting one small behavior the next day. Slow your schedule. Have the conversation you've been dodging. Reclaim rest without guilt. Often, the dream softens once balance begins returning. When you respect dreams as corrective signals, they change their tone. They become clearer, calmer, more instructive. The shadow stops screaming because it's finally acknowledged. And this creates an unexpected shift. Instead of reacting emotionally, you start responding consciously. You feel less attacked by your own psyche, more supported, more guided. But correction is only the beginning. Because once balance is restored, the soul turns its attention to what you fear most. And that's when dreams bring the messenger of fear forward. Fear shows up in dreams when politeness has failed. It's the soul's emergency language. You don't dream fear because you're weak. You dream it because you're ignoring something vital. The unconscious doesn't waste energy on unnecessary terror. It chooses fear because fear gets attention fast. Heart racing, body tense, images burned into memory. That intensity isn't cruelty, it's urgency. As Jung understood, what frightens us often guards essential meaning. Fear stands at the doorway of transformation, and dreams place you right in front of that door. Nightmares feel personal, but they're not hostile. They're messengers wearing sharp edges. A monster chasing you may represent avoided responsibility. A fall might symbolize loss of control. Being trapped can point to a life that's grown too small. Fear condenses inner truth into unforgettable images. You may wake up shaken, but the message lingers for a reason. The soul would rather scare you than lose you. Indifference is far more dangerous than fear. Fear means something still matters deeply. Here's a metaphor to hold on to. Fear is a guard dog, not a predator. It barks loudly to protect what's valuable, but if you run, it chases. If you turn and look, it pauses. The same applies in dreams. When you face the fear symbolically, the dream often changes. The monster shrinks, the chase slows, the threat reveals its message. Attention disarms fear faster than resistance ever could. Try this practical exercise after a frightening dream. Write down the strongest image, then ask, where in my waking life do I feel this same emotion? Not the image, the feeling, anxiety at work, dread in a relationship, fear of disappointing others. You'll often find the connection immediately. That's guidance becoming conscious. When you act on it, set boundaries, speak honestly, the nightmare loses its job. Once fear is understood, it no longer needs to scream. Dreams become less violent, less chaotic. The message shifts from alarm to instruction. But there's a deeper layer waiting beneath fear. Fear points to the edge, but what stands there is the shadow, the rejected traits, the denied impulses, the parts you were taught not to be. And when fear steps aside, dreams introduce you to that figure directly, and that meeting changes everything. Before your higher self ever shows up, the shadow speaks. Not because it's more important, but because it's been ignored the longest. In dreams, the shadow doesn't knock, it appears. Awkward, uncomfortable, sometimes even disturbing. It shows up as people you dislike, traits you judge, impulses you deny. And here's the twist most people miss. What irritates you in dreams is often part of you, not the behavior, but the energy behind it. As Jung taught, the shadow isn't evil. It's unlived potential, strength you never claimed, desire you were told to suppress. The ego hates this idea, by the way. It prefers the story where you're already complete. But the unconscious has a different agenda, wholeness. That's why the shadow appears first. It holds the missing pieces. Think of it like a locked basement in your psyche. Everything you didn't want upstairs got pushed down there. Confidence became arrogance. Anger became silence. Sensitivity became weakness. And in dreams, the basement door creaks open. You might dream of acting out of character, lying, yelling, breaking rules. That doesn't mean you want to become reckless. It means a quality you've disowned is asking for integration. Anger might mean boundaries. Boldness might mean self-respect. Desire might mean vitality. The shadow exaggerates because subtlety was ignored. It's not asking you to act it out blindly. It's asking you to recognize it consciously. Recognition turns danger into guidance. Here's a grounded way to work with shadow dreams. Instead of asking, why did I do that? Ask, what quality is being shown? If you dream of confrontation, ask where you avoid speaking up. If you dream of power, ask where you play small. Then practice expressing that quality responsibly while awake. Have the honest conversation. Say no without apologizing. Take ownership of your needs. When the shadow feels included, it stops hijacking your dreams. Integration reduces inner conflict faster than suppression ever could. Once the shadow is acknowledged, something remarkable happens. Dreams lose their hostility. They become less about conflict and more about direction. The psyche no longer needs to shock you into awareness. Instead, it starts guiding you forward. This is when dreams shift from confrontation to navigation, from exposure to insight, from chaos to pattern. And patterns lead somewhere specific, because after the shadow speaks, the soul begins offering guidance beyond reason, and that's where intuition takes the lead. There comes a point when dreams stop arguing with logic and simply move past it. They don't try to convince you anymore. They guide you. This is where reason falls short and intuition steps in. You feel the truth of a dream before you can explain it. That quiet certainty isn't imagination, it's inner truth, recognizing itself. As Jung suggested, the psyche knows things long before the mind catches up. Dreams operate from that deeper intelligence. They don't follow cause and effect. They follow meaning. And meaning doesn't need permission from reason. It just is. Think of reason as a map and intuition as a compass. Maps are useful, but only when the terrain is familiar. When life pushes you into unknown territory, maps fail. That's when guidance matters more than explanation. Dreams often show you a direction without telling you why. A path, a figure pointing, a door that feels important. You wake up unsure, yet strangely calm. That calm is the signal. You're aligned, even if confused. The unconscious doesn't rush clarity. It prioritizes direction. This is why trying to overanalyze dreams can backfire. You dissect them until they go quiet. Not because you understood them, but because you stopped listening. Dreams want participation, not interrogation. They invite you to feel your way forward, like learning to ride a bike. You can't logic your balance into place. You wobble, adjust, and trust your body. Dream guidance works the same way. You test small actions in waking life, and the psyche responds with clearer symbols. Here's how to apply this without drifting into fantasy. After a meaningful dream, ask one grounded question. What small action does this suggest? Not a life overhaul, just a step. Call someone, delay a decision, explore a curiosity, read The Power of Myth, or revisit man's search for meaning. Act experimentally, not dramatically. When your action aligns, dreams become simpler, calmer. That feedback loop is real guidance, not coincidence. It's the psyche saying, yes, this way. As you learn to trust guidance beyond reason, a shift happens. You stop demanding certainty before movement. You move, then clarity follows. Dreams become less symbolic and more directional. Less about inner conflict, more about timing. But this raises a new challenge. When guidance repeats, it asks for commitment. And commitment reveals patterns. Patterns reveal lessons you've avoided learning. That's when dreams begin repeating themselves, because repetition is the soul's way of insisting. When a dream repeats, it's not being dramatic, it's being patient. Repetition is the soul's way of saying, you didn't miss this by accident. The unconscious doesn't nag. It waits, then returns with the same message in a new costume. Same feeling, different scene, same tension, new characters. That's how you know it matters. A repeating dream is unfinished business knocking again, not to annoy you, but to complete a lesson. As Jung pointed out, what remains unconscious returns as fate. And dreams are where fate tries to become awareness. Most people hope repeating dreams will just stop, but they don't stop through avoidance. They stop through integration. The psyche repeats what hasn't been lived consciously. That exam you keep missing, that argument that never resolves, that place you can't quite leave. Each repetition is a mirror asking, have you learned this yet? Not intellectually, experientially. The lesson isn't hidden, it's uncomfortable. And discomfort is often the gateway to transformation. Here's a powerful way to understand repetition. Think of it like a skipped song. If you keep skipping it, the playlist never changes. Life does the same thing internally. The shadow keeps replaying the track until you listen. Repeating dreams usually point to a behavior pattern: avoidance, overgiving, self-betrayal, fear of choice. Once you see the pattern, the dream loses its grip because its job is almost done. Let's make this practical. If a dream repeats, don't ask, why does this keep happening? Ask, what choice am I refusing to make while awake? Then test a small shift. Set one boundary. Tell one truth you've been avoiding. Stop one habit that drains you. The psyche responds quickly to honest effort. Often the dream changes within days, not because it vanished, but because it evolved into guidance. When repetition breaks, clarity follows. Dreams stop circling and start pointing forward. The emotional charge softens. The imagery simplifies. You feel less trapped and more directed. That's how you know a lesson has been integrated, but something deeper is happening beneath the surface. Once lessons are learned, dreams begin mapping change. They stop teaching what is wrong and start showing where you're going. And that's when dreams transform into a living map of transformation. Once lessons stop repeating, dreams change their role. They stop correcting and start directing. You may notice fewer dramatic scenes and more subtle movement, paths, bridges, transitions. That's not coincidence, it's progress. The unconscious shifts from problem-solving to navigation. Instead of saying something's wrong, it begins to whisper, this way. You feel a quiet pull rather than an emotional punch. That pull is meaning organizing itself into direction. As Jung understood, the psyche aims toward wholeness, not comfort. And wholeness always involves movement. Think of dreams now as an inner GPS, not a turn-by-turn voice, but a sense of orientation. You might dream of traveling, crossing water, climbing, or packing bags. These aren't travel fantasies, they're markers of transition. Something old is loosening, something new is forming. The shadow has been integrated enough to release energy. That freed energy becomes momentum. Dreams reflect this shift before life does. You may still feel uncertain during the day, but at night, the soul already knows where you're headed. Here's the subtle part many people miss. Dream maps aren't linear, they're symbolic. You don't move from A to B, you circle, spiral, return at higher levels. That's why some dream images feel familiar, but calmer. Same place, different feeling. That emotional shift matters more than the setting. It tells you transformation is underway. The psyche tracks growth through tone, not events. Chaos turning into clarity is progress. Fear turning into curiosity is progress. You can actively work with this mapping process. After a vivid dream, ask, what direction is implied here? Forward, away, deeper, higher? Then look for a waking life parallel, a new interest appearing, a relationship changing shape, an old goal losing its grip. Follow the energy, not the plan. Read material that expands perspective. The hero with 1,000 faces is a great start. Dreams respond when you move in alignment, even imperfectly. As this inner map unfolds, life starts to feel less random. Even setbacks make contextual sense. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start sensing, this is part of something. That shift alone reduces inner resistance. Dreams grow quieter, more elegant. They don't need spectacle anymore, because now you're listening. But there's one final threshold. When the map is clear, the soul asks for something simple and difficult, listening without control, and that's where real healing begins. Healing doesn't begin when you fix something. It begins when you listen. Most people try to control their dreams, analyze them, dominate them, but the soul doesn't respond to force. It responds to attention. The moment you truly listen, something softens inside. The unconscious relaxes its grip because it's finally been acknowledged. This is why dreams often calm down once you stop fighting them. They weren't demanding action first. They were asking for presence. As Jung taught, what is made conscious no longer needs to disturb us. Listening transforms conflict into conversation, and conversation is where healing quietly begins. Listening means resisting the urge to immediately interpret. It means sitting with an image without trying to own it, letting a feeling exist without solving it. That patience sends a powerful signal to the psyche. It says, I'm ready to hear the truth, even if it changes me. And change is exactly what the soul prepares you for. Dreams don't heal by explanation. They heal by integration. When you allow symbols to breathe, they reorganize you from within. The shadow no longer needs to ambush you, it walks beside you instead. Here's a simple but radical practice. When you wake from a dream, don't rush to your phone. Stay still for 30 seconds. Notice what remains. An emotion, an image, a tension. That residue is the real message. Ask yourself, what part of me wants care right now? Not correction, care. This reframes guidance from discipline to compassion, and compassion accelerates transformation faster than pressure ever will. The soul heals where it feels safe. As listening deepens, dreams grow quieter, but more precise. Less drama, more clarity. They no longer need to shout because you're paying attention. This is when healing becomes subtle and continuous. You respond sooner in waking life. You correct course before crisis appears. Dreams become allies instead of intruders, and life starts to feel less reactive, more intentional. This isn't magic, it's alignment. When inner truth is honored, inner tension dissolves, but listening without control requires courage. You can't predict what you'll hear. You can't guarantee comfort. Yet this is the final threshold of growth. To trust the soul more than the ego. To follow meaning before certainty. To allow dreams to guide, not obey. This is where healing turns into wisdom. Not loud, not dramatic, just real. And once you reach this place, something unexpected happens. Life itself begins to speak in the same symbolic language as your dreams. Now comes the part most people avoid, the part that actually changes everything. Insight alone won't transform you. Awareness without action slowly turns into frustration. Your dreams didn't surface these symbols, fears, and patterns just to be understood. They appeared to be lived. So ask yourself honestly and without excuses, what is my soul asking me to face, change, or reclaim right now? What truth keeps repeating because you keep postponing it? What fear keeps visiting because you still won't turn around and look at it? And if tonight's dream could speak in one clear sentence, what would it demand from you tomorrow morning? Here's the challenge. Don't wait for certainty. Apply one small action today that aligns with what you've learned. Have the conversation you've been delaying. Set the boundary you keep dreaming about. Revisit the calling you buried under someday. Transformation doesn't arrive as a dramatic breakthrough. It arrives as a quiet decision you finally honor. When you act, dreams evolve. When you listen, the soul softens. And when you obey what you already know to be true, life begins to reorganize around you. So tonight, don't just fall asleep, pay attention. Your inner world is speaking whether you listen or not. The question is simple and uncomfortable. Will you keep silencing it, or will you finally let it guide you? If this video helped you see your dreams and yourself more clearly, subscribe to the channel Mind's Silent Echo and activate notifications. Here, we explore the messages most people ignore and the truths that quietly change lives. Your soul is already speaking. Stay close and learn how to listen.